Welcome back to Harewood Hillclimb. Let's go over to commentator Jerry Sturman and have a look at some of the cars competing today.
Here's Keith Murray again. The wet conditions, similar to those at Barbon yesterday, should suit the four-wheel drive Quattro. Murray leads the way after the first runs. But the Quattro doesn't appear for the second runs, which proves costly. Murray slips to third as Richard Hargreaves and his new Mitsubishi, plus the ever-enthusiastic Jeff Twemlow, sweep past to take the top two class positions. Tim Elmer's Vauxhall-powered Imagination has traction control, although he only uses it in wet conditions. The system proves to be an advantage at a damp Harewood as he takes another 2-litre Sports Libra win. With his new turbocharged Force not yet ready to take on the opposition in the ultra-competitive 1600cc racing car class, Mark Hemingway's still running his 1100 version. He holds the class record with this car, and although the track is way off record-breaking pace today, support for this class is thin and Hemingway has no difficulty in notching up another win. Former Harewood FTD champion James Blackmore faces pretty tough opposition in the 1600 class, and for once he doesn't take the win, but he does make the final runoff and gets onto the 2009 scoreboard for the first time. The man who beat him to the class win was, you've guessed it, Einard Price. The Welshman made the cut for both runoffs too in his Force Hayabusa, but this particular run, during the morning's practice session, just goes to show that even he's not infallible. That's a great charge over the curb into Orchard and a typical Price tail slide on the exit. But, well, cars tend to go better with fuel in the tank, Einar. But this is Price on top form, really working hard for his British Championship points. The track's like a skating rink during the two runoffs, but this is just what he needs to steal a march over the V8s in his relatively low-powered Force Hayabusa. Immensely fast into the S's, he swishes a little car from lock to lock as he fights for grip. He's particularly bad at chippies, but it's no problem for Price as he wrestles with a wheel. Up into country and the road's a bit drier. Hanging onto an understeering slide through the left-hander, he powers into Willow and prods the throttle as the Force skitters across the wet track with tyres scrabbling for grip. Now the car's heading for Orchard and Price's rally-style technique comes to the fore as he exits the tightest bend on the course. Heads through the farmyard and up into Farmhouse Bend. He knows he needs a really quick exit from this critical left-hander, and he's got just that, getting on the power early on as the Force charges up the hill into Quarry. Just the final bend to go now, and with a big handful of opposite lock, he's over the line for a well-deserved 8th place in the opening runoff. After taking a class win and scoring runoff points at Barbon yesterday, Andy Platt's on a roll in his Dallara Vauxhall. As always, the 2-litre competition is tough and he doesn't quite make the win today, but he punches past Adam Fleetwood's misfiring DJ Hayabusa and grabs second place in this ultra-competitive class. Even better for Platt, he booked his place in each of the two Harewood runoffs. At the end of Andy's successful weekend, James caught up with him in the paddock.
Thanks, Jerry. I'm down in the paddock here with Andrew Platt, driver of the Star Garage Dallara F397. Andy, 3 runoffs in a row. It's been a good weekend for you.
Yeah, really chuffed. We've been a bit patchy recently, but now I think we're just starting to get the hang of it and, pushing on a bit.
Okay, a few car problems at the start of the year, or handling-wise. Is that sorted now?
Yes, I think we were going in the wrong direction, but now the car's working a lot better. Just got to drive it harder and the results should come.
Excellent, get in there and kick it a bit harder. Gurston in a few weeks, looking forward to that?
Yeah, I like Gurston, it's quick, daunting first corner. If you can get the rest of it right, like to go sub 30.
Excellent, we wish you the best of luck for that and we'll be looking out for you there. Back to you, Jerry.
Thanks, James. After his unsuccessful day at Barbon, 2-litre record holder Paul Hames was pleased to be back on winning form at Harewood, and with a time that will be good enough for 3rd fastest overall on the day. Having finished 10th overall in last year's championship, Hames was even more pleased to be back on the runoff pace. 6th and 8th place finishes in the 2 Harewood shootouts would be enough to get the Dallara driver back into this year's championship top 10. Here's a new car on the British hills. This is Oliver Tomlin aboard the Pilbeam MP97 that he shook down for the first time at yesterday's club event here at Harewood. This chassis came from Northern Ireland where, in MP88 spec, it ran a series of different engines. Mick Howlett at Pilbeams has updated the car to the latest specification and it now runs a torquey 4-litre Judd EV driving through a Ricardo gearbox. Not the best conditions to try out a new V8, but Oliver drove the car well, qualifying for each of the 2 runoffs. Back in the paddock, James got his first impressions of the new car.
Cheers, Jerry. I'm down here in the paddock with Oliver Tomlin. Oliver, new car for you today.
Yep. Learning how to drive 6-speed sequential and a big powerful Judd engine. Been out of a car for 10 months now, and it's very quick and very exciting.
Okay, so it's a new Pilbeam carbon tub to you guys. You haven't run a carbon tub before. How does it feel compared to the aluminium one?
It's a lot stiffer, a lot lighter, and quite a lot more responsive. It's quite exciting, actually.
Okay. Well, you were looking for a slow build-up to the day, but you wound up in both runoffs. How did that happen?
I don't know. Slippy conditions, I think, played into my hands a little. Always found I had a bit of speed in the wet if I don't overcook it. And I don't know, it just all went together. It's been an interesting project putting it all together. Friday, it wasn't quite running right to get the engine sorted, and it's all come together today.
Excellent. So day's testing, running here yesterday, and then straight into it today then?
No testing on Friday,
Okay.
straight into it yesterday, and nothing really went wrong, which was quite spectacular. And today, it's been brilliant. Really good
Excellent.
fun.
Well, it's a steep learning curve for you. You've done pretty well to start with, and we'll watch with interest for the rest of the season.
That's great.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Back to you, Jerry.
Thanks, James. Harewood was still only Tom New's 4th event alongside Chris Merrick in the Gould Judd. The 4-litre V8 is not an easy car to drive in the wet, as Tom had discovered yesterday at Barbon when he just missed the runoff cut. He missed out on the opening shootout at Harewood too, but during the second class runs conditions were at their best and he qualified the big car midfield. It rained again for the second runoff, but 7th place showed that New was equal to the challenge. The weather at Harewood really was something of a lottery, but after being out-qualified by son Scott, Roger Moran took full advantage of his early start position and won the opening runoff. Amazingly, it was the 1997 champion's first British round maximum score for almost 2 years, and Roger would go on to set FTD, qualifying fastest for the second runoff. Being outpaced by co-driver Martin Groves during the class runs was the best thing that could have happened to Paul Ranson. It meant that he was first away in each of the 2 runoffs and just missed the worst of the showers each time. That first ever win still eludes him, but it surely can't be far off. Meanwhile, 2 second place finishes mark the best result of his career so far. Poor Derek Young, on the other hand, had a terrible weekend in the biomethanol fueled Gould Judd. Electrical problems had kept the car out of the runoff at Barbon, and now further mechanical woes would eventually sideline the car at Harewood, leaving him unable to add to his score. Young had come to Barbon lying 3rd on the championship table, but after a disastrous weekend left Harewood down in 7th place. As ever, Trevor Willis gave it everything in the bike-engined OMS V8. Despite losing one scoring opportunity after a gearbox breakage at Loughton Park, a whole series of storming performances has pulled the Aylesbury driver right back into contention. He's now up to 4th place on the championship table, and in a car that's well over 100 brake horsepower down on much of the opposition. Moving up to shadow the 2 championship leaders after that fine 3rd place finish at Barbon, Chris Merrick now holds 3rd place on the British Championship table as well. Pushed hard by the 4-litre Gould Judd's co-owner Tom New, Merrick is having his best ever season in British hill climbing, and 2 4th place runoff finishes here at Harewood will maintain the momentum. Catching the rain which set in during each of the 2 runoffs, penultimate runner Scott Moran could do no better than 8th place in the first one of the day. But with his father Roger setting the qualifying pace for the second one, Scott's double-driven Gould Judd was one of the first cars away. He rammed home his advantage, taking the win and rounding off an excellent day for the family team. But if there'd been a Driver of the Day award, it would surely have gone to Martin Groves. Despite catching the worst of the weather in each runoff, electrifying performances and 2 strong 3rd place finishes extended his championship lead. But Harewood today belonged to Roger and Scott Moran. Let's go back to James.
Thanks, Jerry. I'm here in the paddock with the Moran family. A win each. Pretty good day for you guys.
Yeah, it was very good. Not so good for me this morning, but Dad held up the family honours. It's good.
Excellent. Difficult conditions with the changeable weather conditions. How did you cope with that?
With difficulty, to be honest. Yeah, we've been running some traction control for the first time this weekend, and I think I'm sure it helped. It's just a bit caught out this morning with a bit too much water, but it's good.
Excellent, good stuff. A win finally, Roger. It's been a little while waiting for this one, haven't you?
Yeah, I guess I have really. Yeah. I'm too old for this, really.
Not at all. Still pushing hard in those tricky conditions.
Yeah, well, you haven't got to give any favours to anybody.
Absolutely.
So you've got to go for it in the story, really.
Was the traction controller helped, you think, today, or are you still learning about it?
No, we're still very much learning about it. Yesterday was the first time we used it in anger. It wasn't very good yesterday, but today we've done some fine tuning on it and we've made a big improvement on it.
Okay, so there could be potential for a lot more to come from the system?
Yeah, I'm sure there is, yeah.
Excellent. Well, we'll look out for that for the rest of the year and wish you guys the best of luck.
Yeah.
See you next time at Gurston. Back to you, Jerry.
So after a damp weekend in the north of England with only 3 of the 4 scheduled rounds taking place, Martin Groves extends his championship lead over Scott Moran. Trevor Willis is closing in on Chris Merrick for 3rd place, while after a successful day at Harewood, Paul Ranson and Roger Moran move into the top 6. After the break, we'll enjoy some welcome Wiltshire sunshine from Gurston Down.